We experience time in three different ways: the past, the present, and the future. And which one of these do you think is the most interesting? It's the past. We cannot change it, we cannot control it, we can't do anything about it, but yet that is exactly the place where we spend most of our time mentally. We keep ruminating over the past situations, over things that happened, over things we feel bad about, and so many other things. We keep carrying all of the past problems, frustration, and negativity on our backpacks as extra baggage that we don't even need. And then time just keeps on passing, and we just keep on adding to that baggage and feeling more heavier, more sad, more negative, and living with regrets. That's not the kind of life we want, right? We've already stepped into the new year. And 2021, the year that has gone by, is not going to come back in your life ever again. No year, no day will ever come back in your life. So, why do we even spend our times thinking and worrying so much about it? We shouldn't, right? Well, I have some good news for you. It doesn't have to be like that anymore. We can cut off all that past baggage and be free. We can finally make the most out of every moment, every day, and every year that we live in, and that too with just a simple 5 step framework of letting go of your past. So, are you ready to learn that? Let's begin. Whenever we learn anything new, we think that we are going to remember it, but most often we don't. We think that, yes, I'll just implement this in a few days, I'll get back to this. But then after a few days, when we even try to get back to it, we have no idea what that was. Personally, I have gone through that a lot, and I don't want that to happen to you with this framework. And that's why we aren't just going to go through these 5 steps framework, like this is the first step, then the second step, then the third step, and then the fourth, and then the fifth step. That's very boring. No one wants that. Even I don't want that. And so, what we'll be doing is we'll be going through a journey, through a story with our character, John, who will go through this whole framework and we'll understand how he is developing, how he is overcoming his past. And then that will be a story we all can cherish, a story we all can remember. And through that story, we'll get our lessons to implement in our lives. So let's begin with that story. John is a 24-year-old college student who lost his dear friend in an accident 2 years ago. Unfortunately, he was the one who was driving the car. That incident is still deeply etched in his memory. He was there at the traffic signal waiting when another car just came and rammed into them late at night. He does not remember what happened afterwards. All he remembers is waking up in an ambulance that was rushing to the hospital. He had several fractures, and that trauma is still deep within. But that's not what hurts him the most. What hurts the most is that his friend, one of his best friends for over 10 years, went away. He passed away in that accident. And every day, John wakes up with that guilt, thinking that maybe if I was the one in that seat, I could have saved his life. Something else would have happened. If I had gone a little slower or gone a little faster, maybe we could have missed the signal, we could have gone home safely. And that is a deep traumatic thing that John still keeps in his mind every day. He thinks about it, he's negative, he's sulken, and we all can understand that when we have that kind of trauma affecting us, it becomes very, very difficult. But we cannot stay in that, right? Even John cannot stay in that. It's been 2 years and he has to move on, but he still hasn't figured out how. So, we are going to help him today with our 5 step framework, and that begins with the first step: acceptance. The past is not something that we can change. The past is gone, the past has happened, and even if we got a time machine, we cannot change that. No matter how much John thinks that, maybe I could have done this, I could have done that, those are just the things he could have done. These are not the things that he can still do. That is all the past. That is all that has happened. And so, the first thing that leads to moving on, that leads to closure, putting closure to a past negativities, to our past traumas, is understanding and accepting that whatever has happened has happened. And John himself accepts that, yes, well, that was a very unfortunate incident. He had to go through that. He cannot change it, he cannot redefine it, he cannot do anything about it. He can just accept it as of now, and that's what he does. And then he moves on to the second step of this framework, which is reflect. What does this mean? This means understanding what exactly happened and seeing what your actions were at that moment from an objective point of view. And that happens a lot, that we like to blame ourselves. We think, I have done wrong, I have done this, and we live in that deep, sullen regret. And we think maybe we could change some things, but we cannot. And so that is where the reflection comes in, where we have to reflect, understand exactly what happened and what our response was. And so let's do that. Let's do that with John's story. They were driving late at night. They were coming back from a party at that night. And then they just stopped at the red signal like they usually do. It was around 2 a.m., so the traffic was pretty light. And then there were some drunk drivers who were driving way fast. And one of them crashed into their car. Now, John asked this question, why did that happen? It was that because of that unlucky moment, they were at that signal at that time when that drunk driver was passing through it as well. And then, could he have done better? Not really. They could have left the party early, they could have left the party a little late, or they might not have attended the party at all and just spent their time at home studying, which could have saved their lives, which could have saved them so much trauma. And those are just possibilities again, that he could have done that better. And maybe another thing was that he could have seen that, there's not a lot of traffic here, so maybe I can just skip the signal and go by. And while that was dangerous, that is not something that anyone should do, maybe that would have prevented them from being hit by that drunk driver. It's just a possibility, no one knows. And so when you reflect and when you understand this, when you ask questions, what happened? What was my response? Could I have done better in some way? You understand that yes, whatever has happened, and now these are some of the things that I can take along with me. And you understand the situation more objectively. Because when John was in that environment, when he was in so much stress, so much trauma, he couldn't think that how do I move on from this? In that moment, expressing and feeling that was important. But then now he moves on. He has gotten that distance from that event, because of which he can reflect objectively. So do that for yourself. You're in 2022 now. What were some negative things that happened in 2021? What were some challenges that you faced, or in from any year in the past? And what happened? What was your response? And could you have done better in any way? Reflect upon that. And then we move on to the third step, that is analyze. What happens in this step now? It's simple. You have to analyze your response, all that you did, and see what are the lessons that you can take into the future. We have accepted that we cannot change the past, but what we definitely can do is take lessons from that and implement them to prevent anything bad in the future. So, what could John do? He analyzes his response. They were at the party late. They could have left early and they could have saved themselves. They could have driven a little fast or driven a little slow, whatever it was, and reached home. Or maybe they could have not left their home at all and stayed there studying, and then, not getting involved in any accident or anything like that. And so that's what he's analyzed. And what is his lesson from there? He realizes that while that has happened, my lesson is that not to attend late night parties that get extremely late, like 2, 3 a.m. Because one, it disturbs his sleep schedule, and the second is that it opens to more dangers on the road. At late at night, there's less traffic, so people drive faster, and that can lead to accidents, that can lead to moments like this. So that is his understanding from this analysis. He understood, his introspected, and he's found that yes, this is something that I can take into the future. And then now we move on to the fourth step, and that is learn. This framework seems very simple, right? While we think so much over the past, this happened, that happened, when we just apply this simple framework, we understand it from a very objective point of view, and that then helps us grow and learn a lot. And that brings us to this fourth step of learning. We have accepted, we have reflected, we have analyzed it, and now we have to learn from it. How can I implement whatever my analysis is and use that as a lesson for the future? So, what could John do? He could do this very simple thing. He will make sure he has a policy that no matter how much his friends pressure him, he will not go and drive at late night parties. And then that is his first lesson. Then the second lesson is he'll always ask himself, is this worth it? Should I really do this kind of thing? Because again, it's a question of life or death. You never know. You don't know that the next moment the person sitting next to you will be there or not. So you must understand that, is this risk really worth it? Should I go for it? And that's a practice that he's going to imbibe. That should I go for it or not? And he brings in that self introspection, that self questioning. And the third lesson that he gains from this is to experience life to the fullest and to just live with the people that I'm connected with, to experience and express my gratitude to the fullest. Because he never knew that his friend is going to pass away that night, and he doesn't know if his parents or his any other friends are going to pass away the next year, are going to be there tomorrow. Or who knows, maybe he is not there tomorrow. And so he grabs this lesson from that experience, that I will share and express all of my gratitude and experience life with all these people to the fullest happily, and make sure we try to remain the most positive. I don't want any grudges left. That's another critical lesson that he learns and that he's going to implement. And so make a list of lessons that you can learn from that challenge. Personally, when I was going through this exercise, I learned a lot. When I reflected on the challenges I faced, on the problems I faced, and how I can improve and take this learning into the future, it really did put closure on my past. It really did help me reflect. And it really did, just opened up my avenue, opened up my vision to the brighter future. And then that leads us to the fifth step, that is moving on. When you do all of this, when you go through all of this, what happens in you is that you put closure to that event. Nothing is left unresolved. You have taken your lessons and you're ready to move forward. And that is when you define your vision, when you define on the kind of life you truly want to live, and that is how you move on. So, how will John do that? He's understood that he wants a great relationship with his parents, with his friends, with his family, so that he never has this kind of grudge or this kind of regret in his life again. And so he's moved on from that event, he's put closure to it, and now he's looking into the future where he sees a happy, prosperous relationship with everyone and starts taking action towards that now. And so, what you have to also do is that understand your vision. Where do you see yourself, and how would you have moved on and improved from this challenge, and how would your life have changed? It may be very subtle, but that will really be impactful. And another part of moving on includes understanding how you'll deal with these challenges if they come up again. Because you never know, right? Something like this could happen even in broad daylight with John. He never knows. And so, another thing that comes in moving on is understanding how you'll deal with it when the situation comes back even 10 times stronger. What John does is he understands, he reflects, and he thinks that now the lessons that I've learned will help me maintain a positive and happy relationship. And so, if such kind of unfortunate event ever happens again in my life, I will not have the regret that I did not spend enough time with that person, or that I did not put closure to my relationships. And that way, he'll be able to deal with that challenge. And that plays a very, very big part in moving on and dealing with the past. And so, there you have it, the whole 5 step framework that is going to help you overcome the past and launch into this new year like a rocket. And I know once you apply this, it will feel a little intimidating at first because we don't like to face our challenges. But once you do, trust me, it is going to completely transform how you think and how you reflect upon your past. And then you won't be thinking on the problems and everything that happened in the past. You'll be taking lessons from that, and you'll be looking straight into the future, aiming at your goals and aiming at the kind of life you want to live. And so now I pass it on over to you. Do this exercise, implement these 5 steps, and then come back and comment below and tell me which one did affect you the most. How did you go through this framework, and what were your lessons? How will you move forward in the new year? I would love to hear from you. Let's connect, let's interact, and let's keep shining and growing together. All the best, and thank you very much.